Our city is silent. No plumes of pollution above heads, no aeroplane trails, just clouds. Roads empty, ghosts of buses crawling by. Throngs of treasured bars and cafes cast in darkness. Shutters down, sombre windows hosting closed signs. No tip-tapping on keyboards in the office. No laughter drifting from packed beer gardens. The world is sick.
The city transformed. You know, it was very physically apparent, wasn't it? It transformed in terms of shutters came down, things stopped, places of, you know, community like the pubs or the cafes that you go to. You know, physically, yeah, those shutters were down. That physical barrier was there.
And still, you know, it was like it was a ghost town. It was like 28 days later, there was absolutely no one about.
It was so eerie. It was just insane that Manchester, which is obviously usually so thriving and bustling, was completely deserted. And I just remember thinking the amount of times when I just saw the city so quiet. I was like, I'm gonna remember this. Like, it's gonna get to a point when the city is gonna be back to normal, but I'm gonna remember seeing it so dead and kind of feeling quite lucky to have seen that in a way.
I'd go and see my nan like every week, and I would just sit outside in the garden and she would sit inside because she has this little conservatory, and we just talk through an open door, which was really weird. And sometimes she didn't understand and I'd have to like explain to her, and she'd always try and like feed me and give me like these cakes that she baked. And I'd feel really mean, and I have to tell her that I can't eat her food or anything.
I think the north of England's a very friendly place, and especially Manchester and Salford, everyone's so friendly, and you know, they'd see you, they'd hug you and everything, and everybody's just a bit distant and wary of everything.
Well, I thought I knew Salford, like a little bit, but since the beginning of the lockdown, I started exploring more. Also because I had Nuria, which is one of my best friends, staying with me for like the first month and a half. So we used to go for walks like every day. Now I know it like the palm of my hand. Plus a few other like bits that I didn't know, like parks, like hidden gems, like hidden streets, back streets, like all those sort of things. Basically, during our walks. So the basic pack like for our walks, it would be the backpack, bottle of water, maybe a few cans of beer or a bottle of wine, and the speaker. That was it. Like, and then there we go.
I met my mum and dad and went to a park with them for the first time since I was a kid. And that's really interesting as a sort of someone in late 20s now. You know, I don't go to a park with my parents anymore. It would always be a restaurant or a pub maybe, or to the house. And that was really nice because they got to see Peel Park. They hadn't seen Peel Park since it had been sort of renovated or done up. So there was new moments that have come up through it in different ways of spending time with people.
We'd lived there for like a year and a half and never gone out onto it. There's literally a gate at the end of the car park as well. We could have walked directly onto it and never did. And then suddenly, like, this park became the central, like, hub of our existence, really.
I thought, you know, actually, when I used to go sit, have a picnic in a park, it just made me feel like it's Victorian times, because in Victorian times, people would just sit in parks and have picnics and socialise like that. It made me feel like it wasn't 2020 at all.
Just such a nice atmosphere of like there are people there who've grown up within half a mile of there, and then there are also like people like me who've moved there and sort of make stuff of their own home as well. One guy who every day brought down those like stretchy ropes that you tie between trees for them to sort of walk across, and he like eventually enough people gathered interest, so he'd sort of do like a competition of the novices, see how far across they could get. So that was really nice. That like really brought people together, and I think the winner got an ice cream. Like they all pitched in like 10p each and got like a 99, so that was pretty nice.
To witness people's creativity was really interesting. Like amongst some of the stuff that I shot over the summer, there were people using desolate brownfield sites to go for picnics, social gatherings, photo shoots, catwalks. There were even dance classes and boxing classes. I think in recent years, the city centre of Manchester has become more increasingly about the commodification of space, and I think that everybody focusing from going from the shops and entertainment and then going to the parks is just an example of kind of cultural shift, or what people might consider to be necessary in their lives. A lot of people certainly told me after lockdown that their ideas on consumption and consumerism and what they really needed in their lives had changed.
Space presses between us, clinging like uncut grass stuck to the back of our legs. Park looks its finest this year, undisrupted, wild. Naturally, hay fever has us all in a headlock, but we grimace at one another, from a distance, as we smother sneezes downwards internally. The hum of neighbouring houses bounces over the bridges. Gobshite children, Sinatra, and an ice cream van trundles by. Business as usual. Swarms of runners pour through the neck of the park to disperse as if they were never part of the same body at all. A quick glimpse at how the next is living, and a gentle reminder that we are not alone. That we are surviving, one hot tinny at a time, together, but apart.
Well, we're quite close with our neighbours on both sides anyway, but when it was the NHS clapping thing, like the whole street would like start talking, and that never happened until that. So that was good. Like I know all my whole street now, and I didn't before. When we're supposed to be in like lockdown, and now I know everyone. It's kind of weird.
We're on the 4th floor, where like it's just the people in the higher floors who kind of recognise each other. You know, there was tiers of community.
I feel like people also started saying hello to me like neighbours. They never did that before.
Welcome to our community garden. This is Bridgewater Community Garden, and this is a project just run by the local community. And this, although it still looks a bit overgrown, this was a lot more overgrown before. This is a lovely kind of plum tree. And this is what we've been doing this summer during COVID, just trying to keep on top of this a little bit. And although it looks overgrown now, I mean, this time last year you couldn't get on here at all because of the brambles. Some lovely flowers that we planted this year, some really nice planters, got all these amazing fruit trees. And this is just what we've been doing to keep busy in our community, just keeping on top of this. But it's been quite difficult because we've not been able to come down as a group. So this is Bridgewater Community Garden.
It was a magical time, the sky a cloudless blue. The birds sang more sweetly than ever before. The trees were the greenest of green, the blossoms more fragrant and extravagant than ever before. We bake furiously in our kitchens. We plant veg in our gardens. We run marathons on our balconies. We dance like crazy in our living rooms. And we drink like there's no tomorrow.
It was one of my friend's birthdays in April. My housemate's birthday's in April, sorry. So we had a little like lockdown party, just the six of us. And we got like a projector, so we put like, we made it into like a little nightclub kind of thing. And you know, Kevin and Perry Go Large? Yeah. That was the theme. So we dressed like super like mental 90s rave gear and bucket hats, like big puffer jackets, the whole lot.
Because my family, we did this thing on a Saturday where we would all join this video call and have a chat, and then somebody would play music, and then we'd all be like requesting songs, and people would be drinking anyway. So it was kind of like a party, but nobody was in the same place, which was very surreal. It was kind of like fun, but also sad at the same time that nobody was kind of together.
Honestly, the thing that brought me the most joy was being forced to do nothing. In fact, you're like actively being encouraged not to do anything. It was great. But then the routine was Homes Under the Hammer was on at 11 o'clock or 11:15 maybe. So like just about pretend to do a bit of work, cut that out. Pretend to do a bit of work up until about 10:30, and then get Homes Under the Hammer on every day for 3 months. Like I didn't miss an episode of that.
Meeting my friend's child for the first time over a Zoom call, little baby Charlie, is, you know, just something I never thought I'd have to do, but at the same time trying to, you know, work with it and have a real moment using this technology, and it was better than nothing, right? And you just have to sort of cherish that in a way. I'll never forget the first time I met my mate's baby, because it was, you know, it was over Zoom during a global pandemic.
Some days we are busy and productive. Others we are hopeless and helpless and overwhelmed with grief and sadness and deep, deep sorrow. We laugh louder and harder than we've ever laughed before. We cry rivers of tears. It was a magical time. It was a terrible time.
Because I've been doing like voluntary community development work for the last, say, 5 years. We've been doing frozen food banks, food parcels, just when people text me and things, and they've got no food. We've had quite a lot of that since March. More families. We arranged a small group, COVID-19 group on Facebook, which was about 7 or 8 community people from around Greater Manchester and elsewhere. And if anybody needed anything, we was all there together. If somebody needed a pram, we had Salford Giddy Bank. If anyone needed food drops, I could do that. People a bit of confidence and knowledge that there's someone out there who does actually, like, not so much kind, but he's there to help.
I
this is my story, my experience for Manchester International Festival 2020. I live in East Salford, and COVID-19 has been horrendous for so many people for so many different reasons, and will be for some time. But my personal experience has been very different. I've had an illness for over 20 years after getting actually a virus, which I never recovered from. So lockdown and this whole lifestyle change isn't that much different for me, and you know, a large number of other people, younger people, who spend their lives hidden away, not able to leave the house very often, are, you know, very restricted, very isolated. So apart from obvious things like the food crisis and all the chaos particularly at the beginning, it's been a very positive things, because hopefully now people will be able to recognise and empathise more with people who do have long-term illnesses, as well as older people that are kind of isolated and restricted as well. And it should bring out some positive changes. You know, I've really enjoyed all the internet stuff, Zoom, the support that wasn't there before, that we now have more support in different ways, new opportunities. There is a larger number of people now, unfortunately, on benefits like universal credit. And I think in the long run, whilst that is horrible, people may learn that actually the system isn't something that you would choose. It isn't a lifestyle choice. There are flaws. There are problems with the system that need to be changed. It can be improved. You know, it's impossible to live off disability benefits or benefits in general. I genuinely hope that this will bring out positive changes for existing ME patients and for the NHS in this country.
But the main vivid memory that I've got is my dad passing away. So obviously that's a massive thing to have happened to me, really. But I remember the morning of it so clearly, because we were getting into the swing of lockdown by this point, and it was about 11:30 in the morning. My auntie rang me, and everyone says it, don't they? But I just knew straight away what had happened. Like, he'd been ill for many years, so it was always expected. It was sort of coming, really. But I knew straight away what it was. And then we lived on the second floor of this time of some flats, so I went over to the back window, which overlooks the park, which was like a dead nice view, and sort of like prepared myself for this phone call. But I can still remember, I can remember exactly how I felt in that moment, and it was sort of relief, really, and pure adrenaline pumping around me. But I remember looking out over the park, and I just stayed there for half an hour just looking out after the phone call. But that seemed to be like, that half an hour lasted forever. And I can remember that, I can't remember dates for the love nor money, but it's like 12th of April, so probably like what were we then, 2 or 3 weeks into lockdown? But yeah, that'll stay with me that day, definitely.
There's an awareness of mortality that's just there every moment of the day now, and not only COVID but environmental issues are, hopefully we'll get through the COVID thing. We'll either get a vaccine or we'll move on to the other side. But there's bigger issues than COVID going on in the world. So I hope that people will rally around that. I would like to think myself, I'd like to take the lesson of our mortality and turn that into something quite positive, which is time is short, life is precious, do good shit with it, basically.
It kind of made me just decide that I want to go back to uni. Like, I kind of knew I wanted to anyway, since I graduated from my undergrad in 2017, but I think it just made me think, you know what, life is too short, like, do it now, like, don't wait another year in your job, like, do it now. I kind of thought it was a bit of a weird time to be going, because like the teaching is going to be a little bit different. But then at the same time, I thought if I'm going for me, and like this just feels like the right moment.
As I told you, I'm going to start a master's in the university about city planning. So what I'm thinking and what I'm hoping for the future, at least from this city, is to have a look or a better look into the layout of the city, because this city is growing so much. It's the fastest growing city in the UK and in Europe so fast.
What are the things we do that are like a necessity and what's not really necessary, and what's helpful for the planet or not helpful, or kind of what should we be doing?
If I have less time to do things, what's the most important thing to do, while still feeling that I'm being the artist being true to your own interests? Because I have a lot of energy and I have a lot of like kind of plates spinning. I shouldn't be wasting that energy on things that aren't as necessary.
What I've reflected upon in lockdown is just to try and take it easy, just like doing nothing is fine. And then when them moments come around that you do even need to deal with, you know, you need energy to deal with a difficult situation, or you want to enjoy a fun situation, you're more in the moment, you actually exist for them moments then.
I just hope that COVID isn't going to have such a detrimental effect on the arts as I think it's going to have, just so like people can continue with their life plan that they always had and not have to rethink, like retrain, do you get what I mean, like think of a whole different career, or like not like live their life anymore.
Equality for our children, but I mean I'm fighting at the minute for our children to get better education and get CEOs of companies going into schools, headmistresses, head teachers, architects, tell our children what they actually need to be getting. £50,000 a year in a job, they don't know things like that. Come on, give our kids a little bit of inspiration and show them what's actually out there and tell them what they actually need to do things. That's what I need, that's what I want to see.
I think that having all this time to thank the NHS and to spend a lot of time thinking about the people who do the much harder work in society, it would be great if we can then go on to treat them a bit better, well, a lot better, really. I don't fancy nurses' wages being frozen for much longer. I'm just hoping that we can improve our society after this and that we actually have taken stock.
If you look at society and on an individual level, I think those are inextricably linked, right? So in terms of if we're looking ahead individually about reflecting more, taking time to concentrate on what's important for people, then that will have a wider societal impact if everybody can do that. And that's just on an individual, on a community basis, on a political basis, or, you know, council basis, forget about the, you know, national government or anything like that. What I hope for is that that feeling that lots of people felt during the lockdown, when it was an extremely serious situation and it was a feeling of coming together in a way of a communal sacrifice to stop and to stay inside. We can try and get that sense back across the board and carry that through to what we try and achieve with anything in terms of your day-to-day life, with your colleagues at work or if you're at school, and how you interact with the rest of your community around you, then something good can come out of this. And I sincerely hope for that to happen.
All of us as human beings have a story that's valid and rich, so it's important to keep those stories alive. And in times when we can't go out and see so many films or plays or do whatever we do or go to nightclubs, we can still have a sense of deep meaning and purpose in life if we share our stories in some way. That might be writing, that might be through Zoom, that might be with our friends or our family.
Life slows down. Kaleidoscopic skies frozen on phones. hikes over back fields on lunch breaks, eat good and stretch. Families waving from doorways, friends through screens, books opened that once wore dust, long phone calls, even longer daylight. There's the whisper of warmer days to come, better days. We'll be together again soon.